And we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Aussies Taking Over the NBA. It's a fairly late one. It's Monday night. The weekend has come and gone. We've got stuff to talk about. We've got the crazy, the NBA was almost off. It was almost out of here.
Yeah, man, it was just not out. Can't take it anymore. That was weird. I didn't like that. I didn't like that for multiple reasons.
We'll go into that after we talk about obviously the Jazz and the Nuggets. The series still not over after a little hiatus.
Little hiatus, but Jamal Murray versus Donovan Mitchell, man, these guys are both on fire. Like that is.
It's been fantastic to watch. We will talk about that in depth in a minute. And then we'll just talk about the rest of the bubble. Obviously, the round 2 starting in the East today. They've been finalized. And yeah, we'll talk about that. But as always, you can like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on Podcast Addict, iTunes. We're now streaming these live on Twitch. Starting out getting a little bit of a following on Twitch. Just testing the waters, trying to get some new stuff going, fill some new stuff out. So as always, yeah, like, share, subscribe. Aussie's taking over the NBA. Anything else we need to plug before we get into it?
No, man. Let's get into it.
So yeah, let's start with the Nuggets and the Jazz. Now 3-3 after the game today. Jamal Murray, I've just got to say to start with, he had a gauntlet thrown down to him, because I remember we were talking about the first couple of games, and we basically predicted Jamal will be great for one game, and then the next game would just disappear, and that's Jamal Murray in a nutshell. And until he overcomes that, he won't be that kind of guy who gets them to the second and third round and gets them in playoff contention. But obviously the first, second game was that, and then the third and fourth where the Jazz went into a 3-1 lead, you thought the series is kind of over. Jamal Murray hasn't done anything. But he's answered that call, and I tip my hat.
He's answered that call. I don't know if he's got a third game in him at that level. Like, Donovan Mitchell's been in that level for 6 games now. I kind of want to see Donovan Mitchell progress, because I really want to see what this kid can do in the second round against a potential Houston matchup.
Clippers, I believe.
Oh, they're playing Clips? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, that side of the draw. Yeah, man, it'd be interesting to see how we do against Kawhi or Paul George.
Did that make you kind of go, oh, yeah, it's just Donovan in the second round against the Clippers team, and maybe I don't want to see that?
Well, I don't want to see him injured, firstly, and I have to say that, and I sent you a text with this today, the good players in the league play basketball, and the bad players goon, and so much gooning. The Clippers just goon, and it's horrible to watch, man. It's just...
Is it the Clippers, or is it just Marcus, or whichever Morris that is?
It's Marcus Morris, Patrick Beverley, and Marcus Smart. They just clowns. They're ass clowns, and so much gooning for nothing. It's Marcus Morris was bad on Detroit. Not at Detroit. That's Markieff. I'm sorry, on the Celtics.
Whichever Morris, but that we'll get to that. We'll stay on Nuggets, Jazz. We'll get to the Dallas Clips. But talk about Jamal, like what you've seen from Jamal Murray, the response. It makes you feel like that's a dude who answered the call.
It's a dude who answered the call. His shooting's been phenomenal. I think it was 9 for 12 from 3 today. I think Mitchell was 8 from 13 as well. It was something ridiculous. It's a ridiculous 3-point shooting. He's answered the call. He hasn't been that consistent. And remember, they did this last year against the Spurs as well. They went 7 games against the Spurs. And I think that in this climate and in the bubble, man, going 7 games is not going to put you in good stead for the second round anyway. So it's good to see.
That was kind of one thing I actually wanted to talk about, is the back-to-back games, basically day off, day on, day off, day on. And you mentioned that how much Jamal Murray's got left in the tank. He looked absolutely gassed at the end of this game, man.
Yeah.
Like, he could barely stand up. He was obviously emotional, a little emotional sort of post-game interview where I didn't have the sound up. I was watching it, and he couldn't speak. And until sort of like the end of the interview where I realized, he's just emotional. Like, I thought he was just gassed. Like, I thought like he couldn't speak because he just spent it all on the court.
It's hard coming back and playing every second day. Obviously, in the real world, they'd be traveling a fair bit. Denver to Utah is not that bad, so that wouldn't be a huge issue.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of travel there. But yeah, every second game, and these playoffs have been a high shooting octane. They haven't been really gritty games like 85, 90. They've run up some scores and been some good shooting exposés. I don't know what that says about the defensive side of things, but yeah,
I'm like low key kind of just like, man, the defenses have been not that bad. You know what I mean? Like I see this as more freakishly good shooting, just high caliber shooting, more than like both teams were shit on defense.
Yeah. This game, I thought Rudy got a bit exploited.
Yeah, and he has the last couple of games. Today he looked like he's stone hands again. Because he had a couple of really good games. We were just like, man, this is the Rudy that's dominant. And also, like, I feel like in these games, these last two especially, when Denver's making their run, they don't really go to that cyclone action with Gobert. Like, it's kind of just Gobert's on the floor, and you're just like, why is he on the floor? Like, he's not doing anything. He's not there for any reason. He's getting kind of torched by Murray and Jokic. Like, what's the point of that? Like, whereas in the first couple of games, that monster game he had in game 3, like they went to him and they forced it to him and they were making it happen. In these last two games, he's just dropping the ball, like getting stripped in the lane and stuff like that. It's just like, oh, this is not what I want to see, man.
This is big man ball. This is big men who can't shoot or big men that want to play down low in the lane against smaller guards that are a bit more crafty. And it's tiring, man. Like playing as a big guy. I mean, I was saying how fit Rudy Gobert is. Like he plays a lot of minutes for the Jazz compared to some of the other centers. Although that Denver does play Jokic at high minutes, and that'll come back to bite them in the second round. He'll just be gassed out for sure against the Clips.
36 minutes today.
That's high minutes for a guy his physique.
A noodle. What, the noodle or something I called him? Yeah, potato. That's it. But I do want to touch on. I feel like we had said, do we think Quinn Snyder's a better coach than Malone? And we were pretty convinced after it went 3-1. We were just like, I think Quinn Snyder's a better coach than Malone. These last two games, I think Malone has found this like, all right, guys, don't expend too much energy until the third and fourth quarter. And Jokic, he had a crazy game, I think, in the last game at the start, and then he just did nothing for the next sort of two quarters. And then in the fourth quarter, like he didn't have to do anything because Jamal was going off, but at the same time, he was out there as a threat. And he was knocking down the odd shot. I think he knocked down a pretty clutch corner shot in the last game. Not the game today, but the previous game. And like, as much as Jokic is the star on that team, I still like, you know what? He took a step back and just was like, Jamal's the man. I'll suck in a few big ones for a little bit and let him cook. And then he knocked down a couple of clutch shots as well. Like, I like this version of Jokic as well, even though, he does have that fitness issue where you're still a little bit like in the second and third quarter, he's just gassed, but.
He is gassed. But again, 80% of the points from this team are coming from two players. How sustainable is this? And this has been the same throughout the series, is that on either side, there really hasn't been a player that's stepped up and managed some of the load. Conley's played a better series, although he's been quiet in the last game or two.
The last two, yeah. And
Ingles
he's not in sync with Gobert at all. Like,
no, not at all.
It's just hard to watch.
It's kind of Ingles Gobert. That's
it.
That's the duo. Or Mitchell Gobert. Yeah, no, Conley is not in sync with the team. He's good in isolation, good when he gets going, but yeah, just to shoot first point guard, and really lacking a distributor on that team to get a few other players going. If it's not freaky shooting, then it's kind of not happening down the stretch. And I say that the same for Denver at points, but I think Jokic is smart enough with his passing to get some of the team going and facilitate a little bit for Murray and get Murray some good open looks. But his ISO play in the fourth quarter has just been amazing.
Yes, class shooting. It's been phenomenal. I tip my hat to him, man. It's been great to watch because it's the classic case of just like, man, you got questions to answer here if you want to make it to the next level. He's put in two fantastic games where you're just like, all right, you've answered the call here. It was funny because in games when Denver took the 3-1 lead, there was so much of Donovan Mitchell being like, no one could guard me. Like, I want this. We're going to win this series. And then in these last two games, it's just been like, the other guy's been better than you. And then, like, I always loved Curry because Curry, like it'd be the funeral march. It'd be the pyre being lit before he'd talk trash. where some of these guys will just talk trash halfway through a series, and you're just like, the series is not over, man. Like, why are you being like, this is our series, we're gonna win this series? It's just like, well, now it's 3-3, man. Like, what do you got now? Like, it's funny like that, because today Jamal Murray was like, this guy can't guard me, this guy can't guard me, this guy can't guard me, no one can guard me. And I was just like, it's still one game to go. Like, it's 3-3. Like, chill the fuck out.
Yeah, he's get a little bit enthusiastic, and he did look gassed. He looked gassed. I mean, I thought he was emotional in that post-game interview, but he looked gassed, man. He was really struggling for breath.
Even I think he hit a shot with about 3 minutes to go, and he kind of went to do like a "it's over" type thing, and he kind of did like this type thing, like, and I was just like, whew, he's gassed. But there was only 2 minutes, and I think they were up by about 10 at that point, so they didn't really have to do too much to finish out that game. Jeremy Grant, he played well today as well, 4 from 7 from 3. He knocked down a couple of really clutch threes in the fourth quarter. Where those are the shots where if you're an opposition team, you're just like, Jeremy Grant shooting a 3, yeah, that's good for us, and then he knocks it down. You're just like, damn it.
Yeah.
But looking at this Utah team, Joe Ingles hasn't really played that well, man. In the last couple
not
of
at all.
games.
He had like one good game, 25 points, and then the rest is kind of like. And he just, if it's not falling, he just goes completely silent.
That's a worry too. You just won't shoot it, and you're like, man, just shoot it. He had an air ball today, a really bad air ball. He had 5 points, 4 assists. They go to this Mike Conley Gobert thing where you're like, no, like run Mike Conley off a screen and then give it to Ingles, and then on the Cyclone Ingles run it with Gobert. Like run that more. They did it a couple of times in the first quarter today. Where I'm like, that's the play. Like Joe Ingles understands how to do this. He comes off that screen, holds his man up, makes sure he seals him, and then gets Gobert the bucket. Whereas Conley can't do that. I don't know if he's just not big enough or he just isn't in sync. But yeah, Rudy wasn't great today.
Not crafty lank like the.
Yeah, like
Joe
he doesn't. Joe
Ingles
has like the body to keep guys, keep the guy fighting through a screen on his backside and be able to sort of play in Gobert in the lane. But looking at the rest of this team, like. This 30 minutes from Clarkson, 5 of 14. That's he was a minus 24 today. They just smashed him. And Georges Niang, 20 minutes, 10 points. He was all right, but I still feel like he's just too slow and exploitable too.
Yeah, Clarkson's really got to be hitting 20 points a game for them to pull this through, because they go to so much to him in that second unit. He kind of is the second unit. It's just 4 guys out there with 1 guy scoring, and. It's not a championship team formula. We kind of said that from the beginning. If they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, that's kind of the echelon of where they could go. Western Conference Finals, sorry. But yeah, we've said that neither of this team setup is a championship team setup. And it's an interesting series, and it's fun to watch, and it's good. And Donovan Mitchell's been fantastic. But you're not seeing a champion series here. You're not seeing a team that's going to really go far in this.
Yeah, and Royce O'Neal too. I should just quickly chat about him. He's guarded Murray for a lot of these last 2 games, and it's like, he kind of can't guard him.
No,
and
too slow.
A guy who hasn't been that bad guarding other teams' guards, like he's kind of their guy. I was just like, oh, we need to clamp this guy up, put Royce O'Neal on him, and he's going to clamp him up. He's had success against Harden. He's had success last year. Did they play OKC? Was it against OKC? I think it was against OKC. He had some success too, guarding the other guy's kind of better guard. But if it's not O'Neal, who is it? I don't see, it's Donovan Mitchell, but I don't see him as the kind of elite defender. Then you're looking at either Conley, Clarkson, Niang, Ingles. That's like a crew of guys where you're just like, I don't really want them guarding Murray in the fourth.
Yeah. No.
That's the worry.
There's no one in that team that I'm just like, yeah, that's lockdown defense. That's.
Well, it was Royce O'Neal, but Royce O'Neal's just gotten absolutely flame balled in the last couple of games.
Yeah, that's it's not been effective at all.
Anything else? Coverage? What's your prediction for the game 7?
I think the Jazz take it. I think that they've got something to prove. The momentum was with them. I don't think Murray has a 3 in a row in him. Mitchell's been great all series, and I don't see that slowing down. Whereas I don't think Murray has a third. Well, if he does, man, hats off to him. Yeah. But I don't think it's there. I think that the Jazz take this in a tight one, game 7, and then I think either team gets swept second round.
Swept.
I
I like this Denver team. From what they've shown, but I feel it's a little too Murray centric. I don't. Do you feel like Jokic maybe has like a Game 7? Jokic takes them to the next round type game.
no,
Nah.
because Jokic is one of those players that he's kind of a weird Giannis clone. Like he finds guys, he gets guys he can shoot. And mate, we'll talk about the Bucks Heat preview in a minute, but Giannis has been shooting the three ball fucking really well. Not high
He's
clip.
changed his stroke too. Have you noticed
that?
Yeah, he's shooting it like kind of in front now, rather than like he had this weird. It's like his arms are too long to get a smooth stroke.
Yeah, they're just absurd. That actually, sorry, just before, if anyone can find a clip on YouTube of Boban hugging Max Kleber's head. And his hands, like Max Kleber's 6'10", and his hands just like, they're just alien.
Yeah, I got it. Boban's hands are unreal. Yeah, Google that on YouTube, NBA playoffs.
Just absurd. But getting back to, I don't think Jokic has a Game 7. Jokic requires a couple more shooters to be around him to be successful. I think that they've had that, but they're not true shooters in the sense. They're kind of just like guys that, Torrey Craig, Paul Millsap, they can knock down a three, but they're not going to come off the curl and shoot. What I'd really like to see is JJ Redick move across to Denver and just see what he can do in that team for 1 year before he kicks the bucket. See what he can do feeding off Jokic, just running around the place. Those kind of guys are a dime a dozen in the NBA. You got Steph, you got Shamet, you got Korver back in their off-ball movement completely throws out and makes Jokic so much more useful. Same as Simmons, that off, you just watch some of these teams and there's no off-ball movement. There's no guy just swerving in and out of traffic, swerving in and out of screens, tiring the guards out, and then getting guys into weird positions and opening. It's a lot of stagnant arc basketball, weaving, high screen pick and roll.
Well, that's the Utah have been playing that kind of high weave action a lot in this series, or in these last two games. Really, I've noticed it a lot more. Whereas Denver is just kind of sitting in. Like at the start, they might have fallen for that, really like drag Jokic around, but now he's kind of just sitting in the paint, sort of sitting back. They're not switching as much. And then if it's Ingles, they can exploit it. If it's not Ingles, it's Conley's kind of struggling to exploit it. Even Donovan Mitchell's run his guy off Gobert as Gobert's trying to screen the other way a couple of times, and just like, you guys can't get this right now. This is brutal to watch. I feel like Denver's going to win, man. I feel like Jamal might have one more game in him, but I don't know. I'd be worried if I was Utah looking at these last two games where it was just like we couldn't score in the last quarter of either of these games. And if it's a straight shootout between Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell, I feel like Jamal Murray's got the momentum, but then again, he might run out of gas in the tank.
Yeah,
as you're saying. I don't know. It's kind of either of these teams playing the Clips is a bit just like, I just feel like the Clips are going to beat either of these teams as well.
Yeah, either of the teams probably, if they drop a game, it'll be an interesting series.
Which leads us nicely into the next section. We talk about the Clippers and the Dallas series. That is some of the worst, most ungodly, unsightful goon I've seen in a while. Like I've seen like P-Bev where you're just like, what a pest, like an annoying pest. But this, for me, crossed the line. Like that back of the ankle stomp on Luka. Everyone's going to be like, oh, you're not in his mind. You can't tell. I'm like, nah. People know what they're doing when they're like, oops, I stepped on the guy's ankle. Like, they know what they're doing. I thought that was fucking disgusting. And then today, like, that defense on him where he got thrown out, I was like, what the fuck is that, man? That's like fucking rec center type shit. Like, that's like, the guys work their day job and they go to the fucking leisure center and then they punch on after because some guy goons. Like, that was like real low level shit, man. I thought that was fucking disgusting, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's Marcus Morris for you.
And then it just played into that, like, are you tough enough, Luka? Are you tough enough, mate? And I was like, you fucking get out of here. Like, And I thought he was like really good in that series. He obviously had the ankle issue. He did roll it. Wasn't necessarily injured from a player's, goon. But at the same time, Dallas aren't there yet. Like they're not there. They're still 2 years away, really.
They're still 2 years away from making a real run, and the time will come. I think Kristaps obviously torn meniscus.
Torn meniscus.
He's 7'3", man. We know that 7'3s just don't last in the league, especially at what he does with his footwork and his shooting. And you're either a dunk spot specialist where you run up and down the court, but he's a much more footwork orientated 7'3", man. That's just big. And you're going to see these injuries late season, even though there was a break in the season. Do you ever see a Dallas where Kristaps is healthy postseason? I don't know, man. I don't know if this he is the answer if he's healthy. I think to winning this tournament, and I think that a few of the players they had around them were probably good but not great. Obviously, Trey Burke had a good series, played in games, but then kind of went missing the last couple of games. And then, Tim Hardaway had a great beginning of the series and then faded at the end. You're kind of missing one decent player. I don't think it needs to be a superstar, but there needs to be something else in there inserted into that lineup to kind of take them into that second round and challenge for the Western Conference. But I don't know what's going to happen next year. It's wide open as far as I'm concerned. I don't even know when the series is going to start, when next year's going to start. But, Dallas fans can Luka's second year,
that for him.
The kid's already a top 10 player at second year. The championship is coming at some stage. And I think he'll be a Dallas Maverick for life. I don't think he's going anywhere. And I don't think Mark Cuban will let him go anywhere. It's just going to be, how do we put these pieces in to get this championship? That's really it. And you've got 7-8 years to work that. I don't think the Mavs are a team where they just go like, all right, LeBron, AD, just come here now. They're not LA. They're not the Clips. They're not Chicago. They haven't got the pedigree to go, hey, come here and we're going to take this superstar and come here. Rick Carlisle still for me is not the best coach.
Yeah. He showed some little flashes in this series where you kind of like it's a gamble because it makes you think like, oh, if he had a few more players, like he could get something out of this team. But at the same time, you're just like, you're doing some dumb shit here, man. Like, come on, like you're a fucking. How long have you been around the fucking league, man? Like, you can't make these stupid do these stupid things that are losing games like this. Seemed a bit abrasive too in this series with Luka. There was a couple of times where they were back and forth, like what are you doing? Like, and I was just a bit like, oh shit, it's a bit of a worry. But you're right, they're like two really top tier players away. Like Hardaway is probably never going to go into that like next level, that next tier, the top tier that you need in your third guy. Porzingis has the ability to maybe make that top tier, but kind of has the unicorn ability to get away with it. Like doesn't have to be a top tier. He can be in the next, but he has that 7-3 unicorn ability. Seth Curry's probably never going to go into that next tier that's going to give you that. And then, yeah, you're right. Burke, Finney-Smith, Marjanovic, Boban, like Kleber. Kleber's 28? Shit, I thought Kleber was like 23 and like on the up and up.
No, man, he's hit his peak.
Yeah, damn. I was fully like, man, second year Maxi Kleber, like this guy's got like another 10 years in the league. Shit, he came into the league at 26. He's been really good for the man, but like struggled in this series hard. 15% from three, a guy that, I think he averaged about 36, 37% from three this season. It's a team that, is 3 years away, but at the same time, that fucking goon, man, I was like,
I was not happy.
Disgusted by that, to be honest. Kleber averaged 9 points, shot the three at 37%. So only 15% in the series. That was a real worry. I hope if they get to a finals or a playoffs next season with him, that he's going to shoot the ball better than 15%.
Yeah, and you know what? Everything's got to go right. And this is what people forget. Everything's got to go right in every series up until you get there. And sometimes not everything goes all right. They came up to a hard team. First round, the Clips have been built for the postseason, if you would say, And Kawhi Leonard's the Terminator, man.
Today, that closeout today, you were just like, God damn. Like, I remember I texted you, I think game 1 or game 2, or maybe it was game 1, I think. And I was just like, this will go like Dallas will throw these punches. And then the Clips will just be like, no, we're the Clips. Thanks.
And Paul George has had a good couple of games, you know, into the back end, games 5 and 6, he's played a lot better. And I think, you know, it's funny, it's kind of like I was going to leave the bubble because of my mental health. It's because everyone was
took a
giving
lot
him
of shit for that too. A few of
Yeah,
the
well,
podcasts I listened to, they were just like, man, don't be saying that. I was like, really? Oh, okay.
I don't know, man. I think Paul George is one of those people that if he's not playing well and he gets shit for it, it kind of gets to him. And it's just like, oh no, man, and I'm not superstar caliber, but yet his whole career he's been built as this superstar on his own back, not just by the people around him, but he sold himself as a superstar. So it's kind of like you're expected to hit 25, 30 a game, man. That's just your Paul George. Like that's what you do. But yeah, for me, the Western Conference final is Lakers Clippers, and it's going to be a magnificent series. And I'm going to look forward to watching that. What I'm more interested in is the Eastern Conference semis. These are much more interesting, I believe. Man,
where you want to go with this?
I kind of like Miami over the Bucks.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Giannis is a freak. But I think Eric Spoelstra is a fantastic coach, and he's just got this team that's just this unicorn team of shooters that are young, quick, and do a hell of a lot of off-the-ball running. And it's going to really take guys out of the equation like Korver, Hill, Pat Connaughton, DiVincenzo. It's going to take these guys just completely out of the equation, and they're going to be too puffed to shoot and defend. And then you're kind of left with Wesley Matthews, you know, and you're not left with a lot. You're kind of just left with Giannis doing everything for 7 games if it goes that far. So I kind of like, you know, I like Bam. I like Kelly Olynyk had a bit of a resurgence, been playing okay. They've got
He's always been pretty solid.
He's a solid player, like, and you know, Jay Crowder, like they've got a good team, Miami, and they've put a consistent season together. I'm going to go Miami in 6.
You reckon Miami in 6?
Yeah, I'm going to go Miami. I'm actually going to say it's going to be a Miami Eastern Conference champion. I don't know, man. I just like them.
I didn't watch enough of that Indiana series. It was a 4-0 series. All the games were on fucking bad times for me to watch, and then I haven't really gone back through. I like Spoelstra. He's always been a really good coach. I just don't know if they have like the type of game to beat the Bucks. Like the Bucks,
it's a shootout.
Yeah, like they're a shootout team, but they have Giannis. But at the same time, all the way through these playoffs so far, and in the bubble in general, this Bucks team kind of like, I don't know if I trust Giannis yet at the end of games. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, you know what? We're getting like a closeout clutch performance from Giannis in these games. Like, it's still a little bit like, dude, that guy's got to do so much. You can chip him, you can nudge him, you can bump him, you can low block him. It's not like I put my house on Giannis finishing these games and clutching it out. Like, and Spoelstra, I feel like, is a coach with his unit and with his crew of people, is a guy that coaches that, like coaches against that and goes, I know what to do with this. A Stevens type coach where you're I know what to do with this. I agree. I don't know about these Bucks, man. I'm still just like, I want to see it's the Jamal Murray equation.
I think it's Middleton. Middleton needs to take over those late game situations because they're just going to crowd the lane, put chub bodies in the lane like Bam and Olynyk or Bam and Iggy, or you know what I mean? Like there's going to be those chub lineups in between, and Iggy can defend the 4 and 5. You know, we know he can defend. He's a brilliant defender.
He's also like 38 or 37 or something.
Yeah, I think he's still got a defensive series in him, man. He looks good.
He's knocking down a few shots too. Yeah, from some of the clips that I have seen, he does look pretty good.
He's a smart vet.
So good, man. He was always such a good vet. Such a just like, you want me to do this? Yep, no, all good. And I always love those kinds of vets, like never
bigger than the team. Nah. Like they're never bigger than the organization. They're just part of it and slot exactly where you need to. You know,
and empowering people too. Like he's always been an empowerment player where like you and I are going to get this done. You go there, we like, and we get it done. Like it's not. He's never been like a barker guy player. Like and he has like in a few. Like I did watch, I think game 2, the 108-104 game. In this, some of that at the end, and he knocked down a few shots, and I was just like, ooh, like that's good. Good to see Iggy, because that was always playoffs. Iggy was a little bit like, I don't trust this shot, man.
I don't trust the shot, but you trust the defense.
True.
And that's really where you want him at, because you want him locking down every other player. You could lock down every other player in that team and let Giannis go, but Giannis can't score 80 points. You know what I mean? It's going to be an interesting series. I'm looking forward to going to watch it tomorrow.
Yeah. Is that the 8:30 game?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Perfect
Perfect
time
timing
for me.
Perfect timing.
Little workout, little NBA.
Should we even mention the Rockets Lakers series, or just
Rockets Lakers? We still got to talk out the Rockets OKC. You don't want to talk about Schroeder and RJ Tucker, PJ Tucker getting ejected?
I don't know how Schroeder got ejected. That? He didn't say anything.
He whacked Tucker in the nuts.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, it was.
I didn't see it.
It was one of those ones like I was talking about before, where you're just like, I don't know if that was legit goon, but you're like, I know he did that. He did that on purpose. He raised the arm, fisted it up into his nuts. Dodgiest screen I've ever seen, man. The dude was like, it's kind of like one of those ones where, like, the unwritten rule is, fucking dude deserved it, man. Like, don't step out into a guy who's quick and slight and just keep like shuffling over into the guy. Like, just if he's gonna avoid the screen, let the guy avoid the screen. And then PJ Tucker, the complaining man, I'm like, the dude, like, have you never ever fouled anyone? Like, do you always just complain about everything? I was surprised that all these people were like, Tucker, just, ejected. Yeah. I'm just like, that dude just fucking, he's never fouled anyone in his life. All he does is complain about everything. And that was a bad screen, man. Like, he was even complaining when he got the foul called on him. I'm just like, just stop, man. But then they got a good performance out of Harden in this game. Again, you're just like, fuck, Harden, forgot about that guy.
Yes.
And I feel like people are starting to cotton on now to Eric Gordon just shooting these absolutely flaming bags of garbage shots. And people are now starting to just be like, they're bad shots, man.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah. I think he went 1 of 3 in this game, this latest game. And just tucked it back in the bag. Like, you got to put away these 34-footers. Like, you can't make those. Like Lillard, Lillard gives you this false sense of, like, how great is it? And you're just like, yeah, but then, he went 1 of 8 in the next game, and like 4 of those were 34-footers and they didn't go in. Like, they're not great shots, man. But at the same time, Houston kind of took care of business in that game. And it really, again, I went from being like, the first 2 games, I just went, like Houston did those things where they exploited Gallinari. They really pushed into the corners and were like, you forgot about the corners, didn't you, OKC? And OKC were like, yeah, fuck, like that screwed us. In that game 4, OKC were kind of fortunate to come back. I think they were like 21 points down. They came all the way back and ended up winning that game. Like Houston, I think shot like 8 of 8 out of halftime, is 6 from 23 in the rest of the game, and that's kind of Houston in a nutshell. But they were actually scheming in this game 5. Like, it was like they were splitting traps, they were pulling Harden up and using him to split double teams, and then using Gordon off the baseline instead of just Gordon pounding the ball up and shooting these garbage shots. And I was like, okay, if you're going to do that a bit more, okay, I'm into this a little bit more than just pulling up from everywhere and then just being like, oh, what? It was like 13 from 70 and we lost, man. What's wrong with that? But it's just still unwatchable. But I went up a slight amount where I'm just like, okay, like, fair enough. Take care of business here. I still just want to see him play the Lakers, and then LeBron just pick them apart with AD. Like, I want to see that. I want to see how that goes. So it's kind of win-win situation. I don't necessarily want to see Chris Paul advance. I don't necessarily want to see Houston advance either. Like, if those 2 teams could just be knocked out and Lakers go to the Western Conference Finals, I'll be like, yeah, sweet, even better. That's jackpot.
Well, it's
for
always
me.
waste of 4 games.
But I want to see LeBron just because his passing has just been outrageous in this Portland series. Like that was the part of that series where I went, holy fuck, like LeBron's passing in this, it's just been ridiculous.
He's a smart player. Like even though in that last game he just took them to town and scored 30 points. He's a smart player. He knows that this is the way he will extend his career is by a facilitator, not by being a ball dominant scorer. He doesn't need to be. Yeah, he can still knock down a shot. Yeah, he can still get to the rim. Yeah, he can still defend a bit. But his vision of court, there's probably only two other players that has the same court vision as he does. Ben Simmons probably being one of them, and you know, maybe a peak Rondo, although we haven't really seen much of Rondo lately, but a peak Rondo in terms of active players is probably there as well. There's just really not the same level of court vision and ability to collapse teams in the lane and just kick to a shooter or kick or just back pass or yeah, man.
I feel like the Lakers don't really have the shooters. Like I don't have a shooters everywhere, man. Like if LeBron was on the Bucks instead of Giannis, you kind of just be like, God damn, that team would be ridiculous. But this Lakers team doesn't have necessarily the caliber of shooters. But I feel like the Lakers at least have like more cohesion as a team.
Yeah.
Like JaVale knows his role, and JaVale has been playing like he was playing out of his skin in that Portland series. Like not necessarily highlight plays, but just getting balls over Nurkic and finishing them. Like in some instances where other players you'd just be like, the guy didn't like instances where, oh man, they blew that and it was a tough layup or like a tough putback. But JaVale's kind of been knocking them down, like pulling down rebounds, one dribble and then finishing. And I was like, if you can keep doing that, especially against Houston, like we've seen Steven Adams offensively rebound crazy. If he can do that against Houston, I don't see how Houston can really win games in that series unless they just beef Chubb the Lakers with speed and Chubb. I don't know.
Even then, I think Caruso and Kuzma and those, you could kind of match that lineup pretty well. I don't know, man. I think that the Lakers really are going to take this out of the. It's going to be a Lakers or Clippers Western Conference, and yeah, it'll be
Lakers
interesting.
and Clippers, did you say?
Yeah, Lakers and Clippers in the Western Conference final, and I don't know who will take it out from there.
Anything else? We want to talk about the reason the NBA was shut down. We should have mentioned that after the Jazz, but
we'll touch briefly on it because I think it's a bit of a touchy subject, and it's
hard for us because we're in Australia and we don't see that kind of like we're not connected to that.
No, and you can be connected to that, but I think that just abandoning the NBA sends a wrong message, I think, to people, especially minorities and to young people in the US, because it kind of adds to that chaotic theory of, oh, well, if something happens, then we just walk away from our job, and it's kind of chaos. I think the smarter thing would be to do is to get together as an association, say, we're donating all our money that we're going to earn, or donating part of our money that we're going to, and I didn't hear this from anyone. It was like, oh, we're not playing anymore. Donate part of their money into our earn for charities that look directly after, domestic violence, police officer training, de-escalation training. There's a whole range of things that could benefit from people making a shit ton of money and wanting to do something with it instead of just saying, we're off. Because it's kind of at the moment. If you're an American child at the moment and you haven't got a lot of money, and nothing's really open, and you just kind of, you're living for basketball, maybe living for your stars to watch your favorite team on the weekend. It's something that takes you out of your shithole misery of a life. I just think that it sends the wrong message to those kids and those people that, and please take a stand. Like that footage was harrowing, and there's nothing like, even if you had what I don't get out of that footage, you got like 4 white guys with guns and no one just like tackles him. Like he's walking away with his back. Just someone tackle him.
Mm.
Like if at least if you tackle him, he's on the floor and you can wrestle him. You know what I mean?
Guns,
like
man.
just
the guns things changes everything.
we,
And
we don't understand it because
nah,
we don't have the mentality of guns, and it's a psyche. It's a complete psyche of, you know, you rag on religious people living 2,000 years, 1,500 years in the past in their contextual pieces of doctrine. But you're living 300 years in the past with this idea that you need to have guns. Like, yeah, man, 300 years ago, yeah, you need to have a rifle because a mountain lion or a buffalo might have, you needed to shoot that to save your life. But at no point did you need to have an AK with a 40 bullet clip and just unload that on wildlife. And the right to bear arms is a governmental thing to take, just like, no,
we don't understand it, man. Like I look at that and I'm just like, guns, I'm like miles and miles away. I'm not anywhere near those guns. Like I'm out on guns. But I thought when the Bucks took the stand, because it was like it happened in Wisconsin. Like I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, good on them, man. Like making a decision for themselves and making that decision as their organization. I thought how Orlando came out warmed up and they were a little bit like, what the fuck's going on? I don't like that part. I was just like, oh man, at least shout them out or do something.
Yeah.
But you're right, it adds to the whole chaos of the situation, and sometimes that chaos needs to be seen and heard. And in this sense, I think it did need to be seen and heard, but I didn't like how quickly everyone went to just like, oh, it's going to be off. It's all off. Like, that's it. The NBA's... And then I was just like, chill. They made their stand. Like, let's see what's going to happen. Let's talk it out. Let's work this out. Let's work out what the best way forward here is. And I'm glad, as someone who consumes the product, that they came to the conclusion that let's continue to play, because I don't think that's the right stand to take.
I don't think it's the right stand to take either. And I think that the only one that I know of out of this, or maybe other people doing it privately, but Patty Mills came out and donated his entire earnings from the bubble to different charities to fight racism.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not even American. Like, he's obviously doing that for charities back home here as well as over in the States, but he's not even American. And, we have racial divide in this country and it's shit, but it's not to the same extremes on a global scale or on a national scale as what we see in America.
It's like the activist part doesn't permeate what happens in this country, where it does in America. Like, it's all ingrained into their community and cultural system, that sometimes, like, that was the part of it that I was like, yeah, fucking oath, Bucks, like, do that. Like, if that's the stand you want to take that stand, make your point, and then, like, I thought, like, in the moment, like, fuck yeah, make your stand. And then you kind of go, fuck, like, I wanted to watch basketball, man. Like, this kind of sucks. And then, like, I kind of felt a little bit bad. Like, I was like, no, fuck, why am I thinking like that? That's kind of a weird, selfish thing to think, that these guys aren't on parade to, play basketball for my enjoyment. Like, if they want to take an activism stand, take that stand. So I just kind of wonder how many other people were thinking like that. Like,
what was the outcome of it though? Like, okay, they took a stand, they put it on postpone for 2 days. They then had these meetings where everyone yelled at each other. They then had, CJ McCollum, asking how much are we going to lose financially if we all walk away now, and everyone's like, ooh, too much money on the table here.
Yeah, well, speculatively speaking,
but I can pretty assume that yes, it is too much money to leave on the table. And the Lakers and Clippers wanted to walk, and that's probably very noble. But there are other players that maybe don't earn as much as them and need to get paid and all this kind of thing.
And that's like the Lakers and Clippers also is like the two most powerful probably organizations in there.
But use the money and say, right, I was prepared to walk away from this dollar value. I'm now going to earn this dollar value, and I am going to give this dollar value to these organizations to help fight and target extremist ideologies in race and racial tension and police officer de-escalation training and all these different things, so that this stuff stops happening. Because I can tell you again, before the end of this happening, another black man or another, man of color in another city will be murdered by police officers. Statistically, it happens. It happens 357 times a year in America. We've got to think it's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like it happens. Like you can look at the numbers. There's about 350 people of color murdered or killed by police officers every year in the US. It's going to happen. Are we just going to go to the next time and have another stand and then have another stand? Like, have a plan, have a thought, have a series, have an outcome. And I don't think anything was achieved on it. They just went, oh, we're not going to play today, and we're going to have a chat, and we're going to see how it goes. And it was just kind of like, and then, oh no, NBA's resumed, all good. Okay, everyone's watching again. So all that did was delay the end. It didn't. It's like now the NBA is going to come.
Look, at least it gave a little bit of awareness. The thing I was thinking about the other day was like when it was happening. I was thinking like, if you like put yourself in the NBA's shoes as an organization. Like you've spent all this fucking money to get this bubble up and running. All this money's been dropped to make sure the season finishes. Like, are we really gonna just like end it? Like, how could you go into that scenario rationally if you're the NBA?
I think that the NBPA has such power because of the collective bargaining agreement that the NBA would have no choice but to support them publicly. Because they're profit sharing. So they know that it's going to hurt them just as much as it does the NBA. And they know if they kick out of the playoffs now, well, then next year's salary cap's down the toilet. Luxury tax kicks in at 80 million instead of 120 million. And all these guys' salaries are going to be nerfed for the next 10 years.
Yeah. And I should laugh, but man, it's going to be really, really disruptive.
It is. And you know what? There was so many smarter things to do than what they did. Yep, take a stand up. We're not playing today in memory of what's happened. This is what we're going to come back. We're going to donate 50% or 20%. I don't give a shit. It's big money. They're all earning big money. We're going to this is the charity we want to donate to, and this is what we want to do, and this is how we want to go about doing that. And it kind of just didn't happen. It just a whole bunch of people yelled and jumped up and down, and then they all went back to playing basketball.
Which I think's the right outcome in the end. You know, as two white guys sitting on the other side of the world, don't understand the actual deep, like the soul of this issue. I think the right outcome has been made.
The right outcome has been made, but you're never going to understand the anger that they feel, and you know,
also like the bubble too, like. You know, like they're inside this bubble too. So it's kind of like if you were in the outside world and you had the freedom to go out and do things outside in the real world. I don't know. Maybe that kind of was into it as well, or something to do with it.
Most NBA players, I'm not going to say all, but most NBA players are always in a bubble.
Yeah.
They're rich, they're wealthy. They don't, a lot of them come from the streets. Maybe those guys are more connected. But most of them are rich, wealthy people. They live in upper class neighborhoods, suburbs, where they probably don't see a lot of violence. They may have grown up in it, but that happens. So are they actually connected to it? They're always in a bubble. Look, there's a couple of people that definitely put their money where their mouth is, LeBron being one of them. But I think that the outcome could have been very different for standing up for something more and maybe donating some match fees or whatever, and listing the charities that people can get behind, and these organizations, and because all you saw from the outcome was just chaos, and chaos is not good, and striking adds to chaos. And I think that there was a moment to be leaders, and the leaders was like, yep, today we're having a day off. We're going to, this is a day of protest. We're coming back tomorrow, but today we're not. And it wasn't that. It was kind of like, we're not playing, and then we're going to negotiate what we're going to do after this. And then rabble. Okay, now we're back playing. What was achieved?
That seemed to come back real quick too.
Yeah, it did.
We're playing everyone. Okay, next day, sweet, we're back on.
So, yeah, that's my rant and 2 cents in the matter.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough. I think it's hard for us to really clamp down on the heart and soul of the issue. Again, I go back to the like. It's like, wow, man, like I wanted to watch like this was, and then the fragility of it. Like this really shouldn't be anything at all at the moment. Like with what they're going through in terms of the virus. They've obviously got also like the racial tension stuff. Like there's other things that are larger than basketball. Like it kind of gave me this weird feeling of just like, why am I sitting here just being like, I demand you play for my entertainment. And then I was like, what? That's fucking weird, isn't it? Like, I'm on the other side of the world sitting there going, fucking play, man. Like, what is this? This is bullshit. I want to watch these guys play. But then like it makes you just think like of the fragility of what's the world's going through at the moment, man. Like half these fucking sports aren't even playing at all.
No.
Around the world. Like, but some of them barely finished, barely started, and like are barely still trying to keep it together. It's just chaos, man. Fuck. Like,
man. When will it all return to normal?
I know. It's going to be like, it's going to take an extra amount of time after it's kind of just back to normal. Like everything's been moved like this. So, seasons are going to start like 3 months later. Like it's not going to be the same for another like couple of years, really.
Yeah.
Until it gets back into that rhythm of like everything moves back to normal how it was before. And like, are the NBA gonna what effects is this gonna have on mass gatherings of people in stadiums? Too, because I still think like the bubble is contributing to this tension. Because some of these guys you can tell want to go out and not necessarily like, go to the cynical part where they go to strip clubs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I feel like some of them still do community work that's part of their like life and the way they deal with like who they are.
Yep.
I reckon that's kind of getting to some of them as well.
Probably, man. It'd be, for some people, it's like, well, quiet down. We've still got it pretty good compared to anyone else. There's no virus in that bubble. No one's getting sick. But the same, it must be worrying for them. They've got friends, family, old relatives that, are out in virus land. They can't see them. They can't be with them. And it's, it must be a scary situation over there at the moment.
They're kind of on parade, yeah. And that's why I just felt a bit weird about it. I was like, oh, that's weird. Weird to just be like, I demand you play.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we will wrap it up there. We've got some more games coming in the next couple of days. The Jazz obviously will be watching that closely, hoping they get through to see another round of Joe Ingles. But as always, you can like, share, and subscribe on Podcast Addict, iTunes, YouTube. We're streaming these live on Twitch, just a reminder. So come along and watch us on Twitch if you've got a Twitch account. Say g'day. And yeah, I think we'll leave it there. And when will we be back?
So one day, probably sometime over the weekend.
Yeah, on the weekend.
Yeah, we'll get through into the second round.
Yeah, all right. No worries.
All right, guys.
All right. Take it easy, peeps.
See ya.